Hey guys! Since I recently got a new sketchbook, I thought it would be fun to decorate the cover together to show the sketchbook some love while answering some of your questions that you guys have asked. This sketchbook is by Moleskine. It's an art sketchbook where you should be able to paint with watercolors, so I'm curious to test it out. For the design, I wanted to do something mandala and dot art inspired. So I first sketched out a design in Procreate so it's easier to find out the general design. Then I printed it out so I could trace it. Now you can just design it on the paper and then just follow the same steps as I do here. For transferring the sketch, I used this crayon type of pen by STABILO, which is great because it works on different surfaces. And if you have seen some of my videos, you probably know this technique. So instead of the pencil, I used this white crayon pen to add the crayon onto the back side of the design. And then you can just place the paper onto your sketchbook and transfer the lines by tracing the design with a pencil. You can also tape it to the book so it doesn't move around. And once you traced all the lines, you can move on to painting them. Now my design was half ready, so I just thought at the middle of the painting I will just decide spontaneously what I want to draw. And for the outlines, I wanted to use a gold color, so I used a thin brush and gold acrylic paint. But you can also use permanent markers in the color of your choice. So the first question is from Madhu Lavani. Whenever my art doesn't satisfy me, I feel demotivated and I'm unable to make anything for weeks. What would you suggest me to do at such times? I totally understand that we always want to create a masterpiece in one go, and we can feel like a failure if the end result doesn't work out. And in the end, we end up comparing ourselves to others, thinking that everyone else is just so much more talented and how easy it must be for them to create one masterpiece after another. But in reality, we never see the behind-the-scenes work of other artists, and we always think that they're just perfect in what they do. But it's not like that at all. For example, you might see my tutorials and finished paintings, but it usually takes hours or days of preparation. Sometimes I have a great idea and start painting it to test out the techniques and whatnot, but in the end I'm not happy with the way my art turns out. But instead of being unhappy, I always try to see that as a challenge. I personally can never stop trying until I've figured out a way to make something work. I see every piece of art that I'm not happy with just as part of the process. Every new sketch, every new attempt, you always learn something new. How to create a better composition, what colors work better, how much or how little you should use water or paint, just all these little things that can help you improve. That's why I would recommend to, whenever you are not happy with your art, instead of hating it, try to find out what exactly it is that you don't like about it. See this as an opportunity to learn and to improve your art, not to hate on yourself. Whenever you try again, you get better and better at what you're doing. So just keep trying. I really hope this helps. The next question is by Corey Dipity. What do you recommend to people taking art class? How do you keep from getting creatively drained from assignments? I think having art assignments can be fun because even though someone tells you what to create, it still forces you to think creatively since the teacher gives you certain parameters and you need to come up with something. If they would just tell you to paint anything you want, you might have even more difficulties coming up with something. And thinking creatively helps you to train your brain to constantly think outside the box, and this really helps. The next question is by Albite. Hello Meiko, have you ever experienced an increasing fear of making an irreversible mistake while approaching the end of a great work of yours? If you have, how did you fight it? Thanks, big hug. Yeah, sometimes I feel like I overdid my painting, or I think that I shouldn't have added this or that, and sometimes you can't do anything about it, you can just paint over it. So I think that next time I just make sure to be more careful because, as I said earlier, I see everything as a learning process. But what you can do is, for example, if you're unsure about the next step, you can, for example, use a transparent piece of paper, lay on top of your sketch or painting, and add the things you had in mind on top, but were unsure about. So this way you can test out if your idea works or doesn't work. Or you can also take a picture and adjust things digitally to test things out. And once I outlined the design, I went ahead and colored in the spaces with acrylic paint. It's okay if you slightly go over the lines you created, you can simply go over everything later once you painted all the areas you wanted. The next question is by Myra. Sometimes I feel like that the teacher are liking other students better than me and intentionally giving them better grades, and sometimes I feel like others are much better than me and doing great at whatever they are doing while I keep failing at it. How do I keep myself moving forward and stay positive? I had this problem all the time when I was in school. Everyone was better, certain people got good grades all the time, while here I was trying so hard and still not being good enough. And it was frustrating because I was like, I'm studying and working really hard to improve my grades, but it doesn't help at all. I mean, it did sometimes, but there were these subjects where I felt like I deserved a better grade and I didn't understand why the teacher gave me something worse. But in the end, I think through all these struggles, I not only learned how to work hard, but also to be determined. If everything comes easy to you without you even trying, you don't really learn to work hard, to strive to become better, and I think that's important. And I'm glad it wasn't easy for me because it taught me so much that helped me in my life. The last question is by Manorama. Hey Melko, I'm in class 9 and I'm finding painting really interesting and I'm thinking of choosing it as a career. So can you tell me, did you face any struggle during making up of career? I always struggle to decide what I want to become when I graduate. It just feels so scary because you think that it will determine your whole life. But nowadays, it's not usually the case. People constantly change their professions or their jobs because the time changed a lot. But the only struggle I had was convincing my parents that what I do has actually a future. For example, I started my Etsy shop years ago and I wanted to make it work as a full-time thing, and my parents always tried to talk me out of becoming self-employed due to various reasons. But my drive to become my own boss and to create things I'm passionate about was too strong, so I just kept moving, testing, evolving. And things might not work out the way you planned it out, but it's okay. As long as you're committed and passionate about it, you will find the path you were supposed to be on, and that's part of life. I might not have my Etsy shop now, but through it I discovered YouTube and other possibilities that I pursued instead, and without starting it, I might have not discovered what I actually want to accomplish in life. And even if everything fails, it's okay too. That's also part of life, to adjust, to adapt, and to make things work for you again. I really hope these answers helped you in some way. It's important to know that you are not alone and that the things you go through, others go through as well, and we will all get through it together. I made a mistake because I used a non-permanent gold-colored pen later to outline everything, so when I wanted to seal everything with a varnish, the ink started to melt and bleed, so I had to fix that with a black permanent marker later. So in case you're afraid of your design to be ruined, please make sure you use permanent pens. And this is the final result. I think it looks really pretty. What do you guys think? I really hope you enjoyed hanging out with me and decorating my art journal. For a lot of other questions you can find the answer to in my other Q&A videos, so check out the playlist right here. Thank you so much for watching guys, have a wonderful day, and I will see you soon. Bye!